Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Today, we're going to be doing another deep dive into some Trench Crusade lore. Now, I have been holding out on it a little bit, so just to let the lore, get up a bit. So could make like, hopefully, like an hour long video that I could post, around that. So, I think it's stacked up enough, and thanks to my Discord, which, is fans that recommend me stuff, managed to give me enough recommendations that I was able to put enough. So with that being said, let's see what they have for us today, and what more lore we could add to the terrible universe that is Trench Crusade lore, considering how much we looked into it. Oh, I also saw the map that came out of it. It was pretty interesting. I was looking through it, and wow. I can't wait to see what happens with the unexplored world portion of it, mm, but it'll definitely be interesting, to say the least. But that being said, thank you very much, everybody, for tuning in, and let's get right into this one. I think the first one today is going to be about trench ghosts. Oh, spooky. Let's see what they're about.
Millions of souls and an incalculable volume. 8 centuries, millions of souls, and an incalculable volume of human endeavor have been put into one simple task.
I love the art. I'm not
resisting
gonna
the
lie.
forces of hell. When the gates of Inferno first opened, tearing reality in two and giving the forces of hell a path to invade the planes of man, humanity's first instinct was not to cower in fear, but to fight.
That
armies were
makes
raised,
sense.
and with sword and shield and spear did the forces of man march upon the invader, and met them on the field of battle, and pierced their flesh, and bled their life into the soil. Such burden and such horror can be a most fertile ground for fear, and fear is most readily combated by faith. But where faith and fear mingle, and where hell and earth collide, the rules of reality wear thin. And between the great churning cogs of war machines on both sides, things that were never meant to be seek to exist. The endless battles of the Great War have been fought over sacred sites, countless ruined temples, church shrines, and messiahs.
Wait to interrupt. I was about to say something and I choked on it. Damn. I was gonna say, I just realized, it just hit me. This is trench ghosts, right? It says the trench ghosts represent a fate worse than death, and I just realized what the whole implication means, right? If there's a heaven and hell here already, and you're supposed to either go up or down, right? When you're going up the elevator, you're going down the elevator, floor one or in floor infinity up or infinity down. No maintenance. The problem is, with a ghost being here, doesn't that mean that there's a chance that that elevator might need maintenance, considering well, you're not down there or you're not up there. What are you still doing here?
Litter no man's land, devastated by artillery, flames, and demolition charges. Graveyards and hastily dug military cemeteries are disturbed by shelling, and boots of soldiers trample over these sites unheeding to their original spiritual purpose. Wherever soldiers gather, there is need to pray, and to understand the incredible expanse and power of God, man has often felt the need to create representations of his greatness, or his mercy, his love, or his judgment. These vary from great relic tanks, festooned with images of the Lord, crosses, scripts with prayers adhered to their gunmetal carapaces with sanctified wax, or converted artillery shells used to represent the divine will of Christ.
I mean, that's pretty cool and all. But and that's kind of the only thing it's not a problem. It's just like what we are kind of like, when you have the numbers and the fact that the only ones that could really attack, besides like the half demons, um, are turned humans, right? See, I'm all about human ingenuity. And while we have great powers, and I'm not gonna turn us down at all, they have a cannon, a tank that unmakes you if you get hit by its bullet. Literally, they reverse the voice of God. I don't think a holy bullet is gonna do that much well against it. But then again, we do have those tank splitters, which are a troop of soldier with a giant claymore. So you know what? Maybe I should shut up. I just realized maybe we do claymore tanks in half. So maybe I need to be quiet.
Some are more modest, tiny hand-carved wooden statues etched from the wooden shorings of the trench that offered safety, carved with the trench knife that offered strength against the hordes. Even the forces of hell seem to share this trait, driven to build their own mockeries of shrines, exalting their own dark and twisted lords, because even the demons and the damned have things that they need to fear. The very ground of no man's land is constantly consecrated and desecrated as control of trench systems, hills and valleys forever changes hands during great incursions. Sometimes the fighting is so fierce, the agony and the pain and the elation of war so fluid, that it is impossible for anyone to recall who really controls any of the battle lines. Forces hold or fall back, they charge or they falter, yet always they drag their faith with them. But the land remembers that which human memory does not. Over long years of battle, many heretics have fallen, fighting over hallowed ground, blessed by the faithful and consecrated in the name of Christ. The forces of hell that die in these places have found that there is no escaping the Great War. The earth will not suffer their polluted bodies and souls, denying them an avenue to return their souls to their hellish masters, forcing them to lurch to their feet and back into battle. Heaven is denied to them, yet their death ties their soul to earth, unable to go to hell either. Thus, a new trench ghost is born. These shapes.
That's completely different to what I thought was happening. Okay, so these are just. I wouldn't call. They're not demons, but heretics isn't the right word. I remember chat, or not chat, but I remember the comments saying something about how heretic isn't the right word for defining these people. Sinner. I get no. We're all sinners. What's the right word for definition? God damn it. What would be the right word for definition? You know what? Fuck it. Evil doers. All right, we're gonna call them the bad people, the evil doers. All right, we're going with Disney terms. All right, the bad guys. Anyways, so the bad guys basically have no direct freeway to go back to hell. So they're kind of just stuck in limbo. Ah, makes sense. Makes way more sense, and is honestly, hey, I'm not gonna feel bad for them. All right, they chose hell. You know, I am not gonna feel bad for their fate. Let them wander. Then again, it's probably gonna be a bad backfire to my statement right now, isn't it?
Still dimly remember their mortal lives, and their dead fingers grasp bolt action rifles, and as grave cold commands of their long dead officers echo across the battlefields, they gather into warbands of their own that strike out to fight once more, since all rest is now denied to them. The condition of the trench ghosts fills them with bottomless hatred and envy for the living, and their warbands wage endless war against all the living, be they faithful or their former comrades who served the Inferno. Even the horrors of the Black Grail are more alive than these ghosts, who would exchange their cold misery for a chance to.
More than the Black Grail? That's a big statement. Wow. More than the Black Grail? That's. Because the Black Grail leaves you. How doesn't it leave you? Maggots, flies attaching to you, becoming you becoming a gun. It's just ickiness. Yeah. Okay, now I got the heebie-jeebies from that. But that's a crazy statement, and that feels more alive than this is. Damn, that sucks.
To feel pain like the victims of the Grail do. They attack all intruders to the no man's land on sight, silently gathering when they sense anything that does not share their miserable state. Though it no longer carries any true purpose, the trench ghosts still feel the greed and compulsion to arm and equip themselves, and they loot the no man's land for every buried ducat or discarded rifle and sword. They pile such loot into great hoards of treasure in hidden places, and when there are no more enemies to fight, they trade with each other, perform military drills, even though these actions have no meaning or end goal. These undead warbands recruit lone wandering trench ghosts to their ranks, and their warbands can swell into virtual
Just
ghost
a
armies that hold
bunch of
sway over
ghosts.
large tracts of land, forming shadowy domains where the dead generals hold court as ghost kings. Even the seas are not safe from this undead
So
plight,
basically, an
for
entirely
those
new
heretics who have
faction.
died when fighting over sacred waters are now tied to become raiders upon high seas until Judgment Day. When the sun is high in the sky, the ghosts haunt the bunkers, pillboxes, and underground tunnels, there to ambush the unwary and foolish who travel into their lairs looking for respite. Their semi-corporeal forms, though extremely resistant, can still be destroyed by sword and bullet, and
Okay.
especially by fire. Hacked to pieces, burned or blown apart by ordnance shells, even the undead form of a trench ghost will eventually cease its struggle, and its will loses the ability to animate its remains. But even this does not grant them release. Their sentience still lingers in the shattered remains,
So they're just
never able to escape,
mannequins at that point.
eternally trapped between this world and the next. Years pass, and their semi-corporeal remains wither into ugly black soot, where their memories gnaw their tortured minds that has now lost all cohesion. Such living dust swirls around the battlefields of no man's land, and no one can hear the ghostly wails of agony emanating from within.
Damn. Real life trench coats. Damn. Somebody get Scooby Doo in here. Because, a bunch of shenanigans that shouldn't be happening here. Wow. So, a fate literally being trapped between, oh, well, heaven and hell on earth. Except you're dead. So, and you chose hell, as far as I understand. They sent you back. You died. And then turns out they had no express elevator back down. So now you're kind of just stuck here. Well, sucks suck. Hey, I'm not gonna feel sympathy for the traitor. Okay, all right, for the murder. I don't know, murder. I mean, they are, but like scum of the earth. Yeah, I guess. What's a better word? The bad guy. There you go. An interesting third faction, though. Interestingly, I see this is very interesting. I wonder why the art has the barbed wires. I'm assuming just for epic effect, unless they have some kind of barbed wire mystical power. Because as far as I understand, they're just skeleton-looking boys, with guns. But that might have been my bad hearing. But very interesting. I think we'll go on to the next one. Very interesting. Good to know what this universe is holding out. It's another bad faction to add onto our ever growing list of bad things to run into as a farmer in this world. All right, next one. This one's one I saw pop up a while ago, but I have not touched much. It is called a month ago, but the complete lore of the Great Hunger. And this is one that haven't I've been intrigued. I've been intrigued to see what do you mean Great Hunger? Is it an affliction? Is it a curse type thing? Is it gonna be cannibalism? Gluttony? It could be gluttony. Which side and high lord, or not high lord, a high demon lord of the seats of hell is planning this?
Beelzebub's desire to experiment with the strains of the Black Grail knows no limits. and he has developed strains that are incredibly virulent, reducing a strong, able-bodied man to a whimpering wreckage within
So
hours,
Beelzebub made this fun.
before
Okay.
transforming him into a pus and decay-filled thrall. Such impact, while pleasing to Beelzebub's grotesque sense of enjoyment, has proven
I
to
should
be
probably hire
incredibly
this.
effective
I'm gonna have to edit
at
it
wiping out
higher.
villages, towns, and even some
There you go.
smaller cities at differing points in history.
Okay.
The problem lies in the fact that a disease that strikes too fast and reduces victims to uselessness too quickly limits its own spread. The Lord of Flies, while driven by his own greedy desires to infect all of creation with his black grail, is ever the tactician, and in the strain known as the Great Hunger, he has developed something very different.
Okay.
The Great
This is
Hunger
his
was
strain.
designed to provide Beelzebub with two things that he desperately needed. First, a slow-acting strain of the Black Grail that infected not just people and animals, but also plants and the very earth itself.
Oh.
This is a vital test in finding the correct balance of
This
strains
is
to
bad.
eventually topple the world of man and reduce everything on Earth into yet another decaying
hell
soldier in
no.
his armies. It also inserts an unstable element into the war against mankind.
I do not need the trees to be eating me. I do not need the trees to be literally speaking about how good I taste. Damn. And these vegetarians can't fight back now, though. They want equal grounds, feed them to the trees. But damn, they going so everything want to take a bite. That's crazy. I did not see making plant life. How would they even eat you? Yeah. I don't know. What would they do? Photosynthesize on you? Like I'm trying to think. How would they eat you? Unless they make the Venus flytraps type of mutations, which is true, they could do something like that to you. I don't really see how they would do that unless you do that. You know what I mean?
In the ever-changing landscape of Hell's politics, the powers who hold the most sway in the war effort are constantly in flux. Due to the specialized function of the Great Hunger, not even Beelzebub himself can be sure when an outbreak will strike or where. The aim of the Great Hunger is to disrupt. They do not think with any purpose beyond devouring. There is no tactical nuance to the things they do.
It's just a random spread.
More meat to consume.
Hungry.
During periods when the other lords of hell, or the court of the seven-headed serpent, manage to take control of the gates and direct their own troops, Beelzebub relies on the Great Hunger to be a fly in the ointment, an element that nobody can plan for, but that will consume the heathen and the heretic as readily as the faithful.
Heathens.
The Great Hunger is not merely a disease, nor is it an army.
It is
a lingering wound upon the world.
Okay.
A festering malignancy left in the wake of Beelzebub's war against creation. It is a strain of the Black Grail virus that is not wielded as a tool of conquest by the Order of the Fly, but rather as a means of ensuring that the corruption endures, even in defeat. Where the armies of the Grail seek to march upon the living, the Hunger seeks only to consume and multiply.
Okay.
The forces of the Black Grail taint the land itself. Where their influence takes root, all organic matter becomes a vector for further corruption, twisting and reshaping itself into a form that's pleasing to Beelzebub. Unlike the immediate, aggressive infections seen in the front lines of battle, the Great Hunger is subtle, taking hold in the ruined remains of abandoned towns, charnel grounds, and forgotten battlefields. It does not seek to conquer. Instead, it waits. It endures. Even if a region is reclaimed from the Grail's influence, the Hunger can lurk beneath the surface for weeks, months, or even years, waiting for the moment when the corruption is no longer expected and no longer feared. The infected do not function as part of a greater war effort, nor do they serve in the ordered ranks of Beelzebub's hosts. Instead, They are driven by one singular compulsion:
Eat.
the need to feed.
Okay.
The more they consume, the longer it takes for the bodies and minds of the infected to be reshaped into something
How
monstrous.
do how
Unlike
do
the
they
warbands
feed?
of the Black Grail, these creatures are not soldiers. They are carrion, predators of opportunity, lurking in the ruins and shadows of past conflicts,
Thank you.
where the Order of the Fly seeks to expand its
Okay. I was thinking, it's like, okay, you're telling me what it does and where it hides. What kind of thing is it though? And how does it blend in? And okay, so it's literally, I could just be walking down a path and I don't know where the ground starts shaking. Turns out 5 years ago, this thing decided to lay down in the dirt very deep under, like 7 feet, and wait into the most random time to pop out, and boom, it's got my leg, and now I'm food and consumption. I've been turned into a protein, and then either would it let me go? I think assuming it's just gonna eat me, right? Since or would that be enough to infect me? Then again, no, I don't think that's how that works. We'll watch. We'll watch.
dominion. The hunger seeks to undo the natural order of life itself. In the heart of Beelzebub lies a pure and utter loathing of the concept of creation, and with mothers and the birthing process bearing the brunt of his hatred. Reflecting this,
Wow, what do the
at
moms
the
do?
heart of every outbreak are the Matagot hags, grotesque
Bro said, raise all rant on single mothers right now. Bro, it's a hater.
abominations, mocking the sanctity of birth itself. These are the favored of Beelzebub's children, and they are the first to emerge. Created by pregnant mothers infected from the tainted remains of those who linger too long in these damned lands.
Oh god,
They feed upon the
that sounds
flesh of the
horrible.
living until their bellies swell with grotesque life, birthing forth more horrors to spread the plague anew.
Ew,
Their keening wails are known to shatter the resolve of even the most faithful, luring prey into their grasp with the cruelest of deceptions.
Nah, ew.
The voice of a mother calling for her child.
Damn.
The creatures spawned from the hunger do not march, they spread.
So what
They
you're
lurch-
telling me is they have mobilized and militarized La Llorona, is what you're telling me. All right. They mobilize and they weaponize La Llorona. All right. Thank you for letting me know. That's another horror I did not want to see in the battlefield, apparently, that they just have. Okay. All right. Using psychological warfare now. All right.
across the land, following the instinctual pull of their endless starvation, seeking fresh meat to consume, fresh bodies to corrupt. Unlike the Order of the Fly, which operates with grim efficiency, those afflicted by the hunger are chaotic, relentless, and unpredictable. Though they lack the organization of a military force, their low cunning and animalistic ferocity make them a danger far greater than their numbers suggest. They do not fight for conquest or faith. They fight because they must, because the hunger demands it, because the alternative is to be consumed by their own starvation or to feast upon one another. The only known defense against the great hunger is absolute eradication. No trace of its infection may be left unburned, no corpse unpurged.
That makes sense,
Those who
considering what it
survive an
does.
outbreak cannot be trusted, for even if they appear untouched, the plague may yet remain within them, festering in silence.
This is giving energy. This is giving the energy of my favorite Warhammer 40k faction, the Grey Knights. So this is hitting right in my heart with my favorite faction, and it's making me enjoy this so much more. I saw you here while there's this infection here, so unfortunately for you and the rest of your friends and family, we're gonna purge you all for simply existing here while this happened. I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to break your neck. I'm sorry, and then burn your body. I'm sorry. It's just part of the deal. It's just part of the deal. Unfortunately, I didn't make the rules. God did. Wow, the fact that you can say I can't in this universe in canon, God made the rules, bro. I'm just don't hate the player, hate the game. Go talk. Go talk. Go talk with the creator, bro. He's the architect, bro. Talk to the game master, right? The game master is the one responsible for this. You got debuffed. It's not my fault. You gotta just lay down and just take the bullet, bro. Take the
waiting for the
holy
moment
oil.
to awaken once more. This is the true horror of the Great Hunger. It is not a war to be won, nor an enemy to be defeated.
Need
It
to be
is a wound in
survived.
the fabric of the world itself, one that, unless cauterized by fire, will fester until all that is left is rot.
And ironically, if you were infected, if you found out you were infected, and you drank holy water, since holy water is technically a real thing here, I'm assuming, considering we have holy bullets, would that would that be considered poison then? Would it burn? Would it kill you? You know, I'm starting to think about it. It's like, would it be a method, right? We're like, all right, you can either we'll burn your body after, but you can either take this bullet or here, take this shot of holy water. It will burn down your throat. You'll feel a good cleanse here. It's a 70% holy water, bottle. It's gonna be real hard. You should enjoy it. You, this is so dumb. Let's keep watching. This is good. I've made my jokes. My jokes are so stupid.
Ruin and the unending gnawing of those who can never be satisfied.
Big backs.
Within the disorderly ranks of the Great Hunger, the Great Maws are grotesque avatars of disease and gluttony.
Oh,
Their
avatars.
bodies warped and swollen with fanged maws that constantly gnash and vomit forth.
I'm assuming it's a
virulence and
picture thing.
affliction.
Right here.
Standing as a monstrous fusion of flesh and pestilence, they
Looks
are
horrible.
riddled with tumors that
Horrifying.
pulse and ooze, their diseased forms exuding an aura of insatiable gluttony. Though they are capable of spreading the virus through touch and proximity, the Great Maws care little for propagation.
They just want to
Their
eat.
overwhelming desire is not to infect, but to consume. Their ravenous appetite knows no bounds, and their victims, be they friend or foe,
They
are
just get
devoured
eaten.
with horrifying abandon.
Mm-hmm.
Among the Great Maws, there exists a singular, horrifying ambition to consume one another. In their fevered minds, such cannibalism is not an act of betrayal, but a sacrament. They believe that by devouring another Lord of Tumors from another hegemon, they can absorb the victim's strength and refine their strain of the Great Hunger into something even more virulent. This nightmarish practice ensures that these creatures are always locked in a grim cycle of predation, stalking not only their enemies.
Let me read this. Among the great maws, there exists a singular, horrifying ambition to consume one another. Damn, I really listen, guys. English is my third language. Okay, all right. Please don't judge me too hard. To consume one another in their fevered minds. Such cannibalism is not an act of betrayal, but a sacrament. They believe that by devouring another Lord of Tumors from another hegemon, they can absorb the victim's strength and refine the strain of the Great Hunger into something even more virulent. E. L. Ashford. Sorry, I know he kind of just explained this, but I just felt like reading it. Why not?
But each other. Their internal rivalries are ferocious, marked by fierce battles of gluttony, where the victor feasts on the remains of the defeated,
Icky.
adding their mass and potency to their ever-mutating form.
God. They need dentals.
Though gluttony
dental plans.
consumes their thoughts, a great maw remains a potent part of the hegemon's forces. They serve as icons of terror, their monstrous appetites inspiring both fear and reverence among the afflicted. On the battlefield, their primary strategy is simply to feed. They wade into combat, crushing foes beneath their bulk or tearing them apart with massive weapons, consuming everything and everyone in their path. To face a great maw is to confront the grotesque truth of their hegemon's greed. The Great Hunger is endless, and all who stand against it will be consumed. The hunger is no mere affliction. It is a profane blasphemy, born from the darkest reaches of Beelzebub.
Boys, they militarize the big backs, alright? They have found a way to make all the obese people into a military unit somehow. I don't know why. I don't know how, but they've militarized the McBang challenge, and now we have to deal with it. I need better jokes. Okay, listen, man. I'm just here getting jokes to myself. All right, there's only so much I can work with.
Bub's mind and midwifed by demonic contempt. In the aftermath of an outbreak of the Black Grail virus, many feel as though they are now free of death's looming shadow, their return to normalcy celebrated as a triumph. Yet salvation proves to be a fragile illusion. Soon, an emptiness takes root, a hollow gnawing in their cores that grows day by day. And first, it is a quiet hunger, dismissed as a harmless after effect of the stress that they endured. But as it deepens, their appetites become monstrous. Unable to resist, they gorge on anything they can find. Beloved pets become the first casualties, their owners sobbing as they tear fur and bone apart in desperation. Then comes the young, the soft, defenseless children whose cries do nothing to halt their doom. Before long, entire households are consumed, their homes reduced to abattoirs. The transformation is both spiritual and physical. The sores on the flesh split open, not as wounds, but as hungry, gaping maws, lined with jagged bone-white teeth.
No.
These grotesque orifices are not content to consume in silence. They speak. Between bites of raw flesh, they sing hymns in a language older than time, vile praises to the Lord of the Flies. The afflicted
I'm just
become
imagining baby
unwitting
birds
prophets,
fighting
their
for
bodies
bites,
corrupted vessels of insatiable hunger
like
and
that type of
obscene
mouth.
devotion. The fate of pregnant women afflicted is more abhorrent still, as Beelzebub has a special contempt for the process of creation. The trauma should end the fragile life within their wombs, but the hunger knows no natural law. The unborn endure, twisted yet alive. When the child is born, it does not wail with the innocence of new life. It speaks. These children, small, pallid and malformed, open their blood-slick mouths and beg their mothers to devour them whole. The mothers, long past sanity and writhing under the weight of their hunger, oblige with terrible joy. This unholy act marks the beginning of something.
I'm eating crackers right now. Please don't. Maybe I shouldn't have watched this one. Maybe I shouldn't have started with this one second. Maybe I should have saved it to the end. Oh my god, this is horrible. I'm trying to enjoy a cracker in a pop, and I'm over here imagining the most grotesque, nasty, horrifying situation that oh my god. Bro, Beelzebub, it cannot be that serious. It's not that deep. Why are you doing this? It can't be that deep. What? Bro, ain't no way. Oh, that's so effed up. That's so effed up.
Far worse. After consuming their own newborn,
the
mother enters a grotesque metamorphosis.
Uh-huh.
Her bloated form sags and slackens. Her hunger briefly sated, but only briefly. Within a single day, her belly begins to swell again, far faster and far larger than before.
What happens
now? Her skin
now?
stretches thin, veins blackening beneath the translucent flesh. By the 7th day, her body ruptured completely, splitting apart like rotting fruit left too long in the sun. From the ruin of her shredded form crawls fully grown horrors, malformed monsters with mouths, claws, and distended features, their eyes burning with an
Ew.
unnatural life, and their
Ew.
breath fouled with the stench of decay.
Ew.
These creatures are the
Ew.
new children of Beelzebub,
Ew.
born
Burn.
of plague and blood.
Yeah, you
Yet the
don't
mother is not
say.
granted peace, her torment far from over.
Of
As a
course.
Matagot hag, she is now a wife to plague and misery. Her body, despite being torn asunder, begins to stitch itself back together, an obscene parody of regeneration driven by the hunger's will. Within a single day, her stomach swells once more, as something monstrous writhes within her rotting womb. By the end of the week, she will split open again, birthing another creature devoted to the Grail.
Okay.
This horrific cycle will repeat endlessly, each birth tearing away what little remains of her sanity until she becomes nothing more than a living cradle of horrors. These creatures carry her about over their heads, protecting her at all costs. These newborn to the Grail do not stumble about. They rise with intent, their malformed frames whispering praises to the Lord of the Flies.
This is
They
horrible.
are no longer children in any human sense.
What am I? It just went from, oh yeah, horror things. They eat people, bad. It makes people hungry. That sucks. To them, oh my god. Oh my god, he just took a left turn and went straight to hell, which is ironic because it's literally from hell. So you know what? Maybe it's in character. Maybe this is. Of course, it was this horrible. Why wouldn't it be? But my god, was this a horrible time to be snacking on something? I'm not hungry. I've been playing with the same 3 crackers with my fingers, just here moving them around because I can't take a bite anymore. Not after hearing this. Somebody, please needs to give that woman peace. Somebody needs to a holy bullet. Hopefully. All right, somebody get a paladin in here. This place needs a good scrubbing, so maybe also we might need a janitor. All right, preferably one named Jerry because Jerry's always lived through this shit, and then nothing happens to them. So, oh, this is horrible. Is it gonna get worse? It's probably gonna get. Every time I pause and resume, it gets worse. It's gonna get worse. You know what I want to talk about? It's gonna get worse. It's gonna get worse.
They are his thralls, harbingers of ruin, their very breath a vector for the Black Grail virus. Each mewling, plague-ridden creature spreads the hunger further, an army birthed from agony and devotion. With Beelzebub's scheming at hand, the streets of civilization
can have here.
Echo with the cries of the living. They pulse with the fevered chants of the damned. The hunger had found its prophets, and beneath its insatiable appetite, the world begins its slow descent into oblivion. The plague knights of the Great Hunger are twisted parodies of their former selves. Once proud warriors, now wretched beings consumed by their devotion to Beelzebub and their insatiable hunger. Unlike the mindless thralls of the hegemon, these elite soldiers retain fragments of their intellect and martial skill,
I remember these guys.
though their minds have now been wholly subjugated by the Great Hunger. They have submitted willingly to the virus, allowing it to transform them into instruments of gluttony and ruin. Their flesh, once strong
like a
and
rare
temperate,
case thing.
now bears the mark of their allegiance. Rotting faces stretched over angular bone, swollen limbs capable of tearing through steel, and grotesque maws where their voice once carried commands.
Ooh, what's this gonna be?
Driven by an unrelenting need to consume, the butcher knights of the Great Hunger serve as hunters for the hegemon, scouring the world for flesh to sustain their grotesque masters. Each knight is a master of combat, their hunger fueling an unnatural ferocity. Wielding weapons corroded by the black ichor that oozes from their bodies, they are as much disease as they are warrior. Their armor, pitted and warped by the Great Hunger's corruption, is etched with sigils and adorned with grisly trophies from their hunts. The battlefield.
I mean, this is a great picture, but like, I'm pretty sure they've shown us those before, right? They're like one with the mosquito faces. I wonder why they didn't just put one of those here. I do wonder that. But that outline of this thing right here does not match what I've seen for Plague Knights. So this might be a new form. New form drop? New model? Yo, new tabletop big drop. That's crazy. I don't know. I'm be honest, I haven't looked into the tabletop. I know about it. I don't really know that much about it itself. I'm a lore guy. I'm a lore guy. Same with Warhammer and any other series really. I'm more of a lore guy. I like getting my hands all over the lore so I can just talk to it with people and they will not understand me, nor will they understand it or the passion or the general interest. But I could do very nice rambling of a lot of lores because of it. And you know what? It is a skill I am never going to be ashamed of having. In fact, shameless plug, I did make a podcast channel where I just started talking about bunch of lores. We're doing SCPs ones right now. I'm introducing my friend Hayate to a bunch of SCPs, and it's been going really good. I write the scripts about which ones I want to cover and how many we cover. I try to keep each episode to about an hour. We just started recording them, so it's kind of very fresh, but it's been very fun. Anyways, besides the self promotion done, because I'll be honest, I like talking about lores. Eventually, I'm probably gonna cover some Warhammer and if I get into enough of these stories for this, I might do some Trench Crusade videos introductions to in there just for my friends to see and see what they think about this world we're having here. So you see, kind of makes sense when I talk about it, you know. Besides that, though, let's get right back into I don't even call this body gore or body horror. This is just putrid and sick. I'm be honest.
Is their banquet hall, and every skirmish serves only to fuel their grotesque appetites. Despite their insatiable hunger, the Plague Knights are not mindless beasts. They are cunning predators, driven by a singular purpose: to serve the hegemon by feeding its endless
They're
need.
loyal.
Each act of carnage is performed with twisted reverence, every kill dedicated to the Great Hunger. In their corrupted minds, their purpose is sacred, a grotesque act of devotion to the Lord of Flies. Their loyalty to the hegemon is absolute, but among themselves, rivalry festers. The strongest among them claim the choicest prey, and those who falter are swiftly devoured, their strength absorbed into the victors. Plague Wardens are the grim sentinels of the hegemon of the Great Hunger, lingering relics of a once human existence, now twisted into the living embodiment of gluttony and decay. These creatures, their emaciated forms wrapped in patchworks of crude armor, are tasked with protecting the elites of the hegemon, serving as their wardens. Their malnourished, elongated bodies appear barely capable of standing, if not for the writhing parasitic worms that hold their body aloft. Their pallid flesh, stretched thin over sinewy muscle,
I did not need to know about the
scars
parasitic
of countless
worms.
battles, and their hollowed eyes reflect not loyalty, but an all-consuming hunger that drives their every action. Despite their wasted physique, Plague Wardens retain enough sentience to wield a variety of weapons with a savage precision. Whether carrying jagged blades, pitted shields, or rifles corroded by the plague, their armaments are as much tools of slaughter as they are extensions of their malformed bodies. They fight not for honor or faith, but for the sustenance that combat brings. Every skirmish is an opportunity to feast on the remnants of their enemies.
They love
the flesh
war,
they consume,
the food of
fueling
war.
their unnatural endurance and keeping the Great Hunger at bay, if only for a time.
I don't think you're ever gonna leave that
fashioned
hunger
from
at bay.
rusted metal and bone, bears the grotesque iconography of Beelzebub, a reminder of their servitude to the Lord of Flies. In battle, Plague Wardens are both protectors and predators, forming an unyielding wall around their hegemon's elites. They are ruthless in their defense, cutting down any who dare approach while ensuring that no morsel of flesh goes uneaten. Their loyalty is not born of devotion, it is simple survival. To fail in their duties means to be cast aside, left to the merciless appetites of their own kind. As protectors of the Great Hunger's hierarchy, They are both feared and envied by the masses of afflicted, embodying the grim fate that awaits all who surrender to the hunger's relentless grip. The prowlers of the Great Hunger are a horrific transformation of those who succumb entirely to the Black Grail virus. Stripped of their humanity by their relentless corruption, they are reduced to shambling monstrous forms.
I'm saying, assuming these are just like drones,
driven by a primal instinct to hunt and consume.
Dogs.
Their grotesque transformation begins with their torsos splitting open, ribs and sternum peeling back to reveal the writhing mass of tentacled viscera that was once their organs. These sinewy appendages lash out with alarming speed, grasping prey and dragging them toward the gaping maw that now dominates their bloated torso. The head, once the seed of human identity, becomes little more than a vestigial remnant, fixed in a perpetual rictus of agony or ecstasy as the creature devotes itself entirely to feeding. Prowlers are unparalleled predators on the battlefield, their movements unnervingly fluid and swift despite their malformed frames. Their tentacled limbs serve not only as tools of capture, but also as weapons, tearing through armor and flesh.
Damn. That was scary shit. That's something I don't want to see in the dark. I'm just gonna say, because I was looking at them. I was trying to process, because I was like, I was deep in thought as I was listening to him talk. Right, I was taking in his information. I was putting it together in my head. Is how scary it would be to be in home, hear rattling, and you either look down the hall or out your window, and you see this thing, like, I don't know, eating your dog. And then just the horror. MC, hell, bathe it in holy fire. I don't know, right? Where's the holy hand grenade? I need it now. Like, even then, that might not be enough. Fuck no, baby. I ain't telling you that right now. Oh no. Alright, if they're gonna eat me, I am overdosing myself in holy water. Alright? I no. Just no. Oh, that's horrible.
Flesh with an almost mechanical precision. They are relentless in their pursuit, their senses honed to detect the scent of blood and decay from great distances.
Oh.
Once prey is ensnared, the tentacles coil tightly, crushing bones and tearing limbs as the creature pulls its meal into the cavernous maw at its core. The feeding process is disturbingly efficient, leaving behind little more than scraps of flesh and inexplicable amounts of gore. The true terror of a prowler lies in its apparent single-mindedness. Unlike other creations of the Black Grail, it is not driven by ambition or even the desire to propagate the virus. The prowler exists solely to consume.
It just eats.
Its
Nothing shares
hunger
it.
is
It's
its
just
only purpose, and its presence on
the only thing that shares is the thing I want to forget. Oh no, I'm not even gonna think about it. I'm not even gonna mention it. We're gonna move past that. Yeah, everything here
the
eats. It just
battlefield
eats.
turns any skirmish into a feeding frenzy. The Grail thralls of the Great Hunger are grotesque remnants of humanity, twisted by the unrelenting curse of the Black Grail virus. These wretched creatures no longer care for the spread of the plague, consumed entirely by their insatiable need to feed. Their bodies are emaciated, yet bloated in unnatural places, their torsos splitting open with each shuddering step, spilling entrails that drag along the ground.
For how long?
Their guts, dripping with black ichor, leave a slick trail in their wake. Where once there was a human grace, there is now only the primal compulsion to devour anything in their path. Their faces are a nightmare-given form. Eyes, once windows to the soul, rot and slough from their sockets.
I mean,
leaving
isn't
empty,
everything a nightmare though? I feel like
Noses
everything's a nightmare to
collapse into
begin
ragged
with.
holes, and what remains of their face is dominated by an impossibly wide, distended maw, crammed full of crooked yellow teeth. These horrid mouths chatter and gnash constantly, as if the hunger has taken over every fibre of their being, despite the loss of their...
Oh hell no! Oh hell no! No! Bad. Oh my god! I have to lean in and see what I'm looking at, and the more I could see it, the less I want to see.
their eyes and nose. The Grail thralls are guided by an unnervingly sharp sense of smell, capable of detecting living flesh from miles away. This cursed sensitivity makes them relentless hunters, shuffling forward on legs weighed down by their own dragging entrails, unerring in their pursuit of prey.
Mm-hmm.
In the trenches, the Grail thralls are horrific to behold. They stagger forward with horrifying persistence, their guttural moans and hisses reverberating like echoes of hell itself. Their shambling, uncoordinated movements are deceptive, for when they draw close to their quarry, they lunge with feral speed, claws and teeth tearing through flesh
Let me
to
guess.
satiate their boundless
They
hunger.
eat. Yes, they eat.
Their presence alone spreads dread, as those who witness them know there is no reasoning with such creatures. Grail thralls do not kill for sport or malice. They kill because the great hunger demands it.
Because they're
And in their cursed
hungry.
existence, the only relief is found in the flesh of the living.
They're just hungry boys, okay? They're just hungry boys.
The fly thralls of the great hunger are
Oh,
vile
God.
abominations, their bodies transformed into living incubators for the
Oh,
parasitic flies
God.
infected by the virus.
There's more.
These creatures are animated hives, their rotting flesh swollen with the larvae and bursting with life that thrives within their decay. From their shattered spines sprout insectile wings, wet and glistening with ichor as they tear through the ruined flesh of their host.
You know what I'm thinking when I just think about how these things would probably I'm getting chilly. I'm just gonna say bot flies. I'm just gonna say bot flies, and that's all I'm gonna say. Just a bot fly. That's all. That's what I'm thinking right now in my head, and it's making me going icky. Oh, I hate this.
Back. These wings, membranous and veined like those of some monstrous fly,
Am I thinking bot or is
twitch
it
and
pot?
buzz ceaselessly,
Might be pot
sending
fly. My
droplets
bad.
of rot flying as they carry
I'm not
the
gonna put a
thralls
picture of this in the
erratic,
thing. Actually,
lurching
never mind.
flight.
I'm not looking that
The
up.
violent
I think
emergence
I'm
of
good.
these wings is the final indignity to the host's corpse, ripping through bone and tissue in a spray of putrid fluids that leaves their once human forms barely recognizable. These wings grant the fly thralls a horrifying advantage, speed and mobility that defy their bloated, shambling appearance. They hover and bounce across the battlefield in jerking, unnatural patterns, their buzzing creating a deafening drone that overwhelms the senses. As they soar, their distended torsos hang open, spilling entrails writhing with infected maggots. The air around them is thick with insects, which spill forth from their ruptured bellies and crawl out from behind their tattered skin.
Blech.
These flies spread like a living cloud, carrying the great hunger with them, and their larvae infest anything they touch, burrowing into flesh, soil, and even corpses, transforming the environment into a breeding ground for further corruption. When encountering these horrors, the very air becomes their weapon, the incessant buzzing of their wings drowning out screams as the swarming flies overwhelm their victims, crawling into eyes, ears, and mouths. Even in death, a fly thrall is no reprieve. When one collapses, its wings beat in a final death spasm, sending sprays of ichor and disease in all directions, ensuring the spread of the great hunger continues. The heralds of Beelzebub, twisted by the great hunger strain,
Hunters of Beelzebub.
aberrant winged monstrosities.
It's
that
got
embody
Beelzebub in the
ceaseless
name, so it's
gluttony
gotta
of
be
their
important.
creator. Once human, these beings have been hollowed out and transformed into bloated insectile abominations. Their skeletal forms are draped in sagging flesh, veins swollen with black ichor that fuels their unrelenting hunger. From their backs burst massive membranous wings, slick with filth and ichor, which buzz with a sickening drone that reverberates across the battlefield.
Mm.
These wings carry them in erratic, darting patterns as they hunt relentlessly for their next meal. The
Yeah.
heralds do not simply kill, they subdue their victims and drain their life away, skewering them
Drain
with
it.
barbed appendages or piercing their flesh with jagged proboscis
Oh
that siphon blood and
no.
vital fluids in
No.
horrifying gulps. Driven
No.
by their
They
insatiable
have a
will
fucking
of the great
assassin
hunger,
bug.
these creatures are far more than scouts or
They're
emissaries. They are
assassin
apex
bugs.
predators, leaving nothing but dry
They
husks and pools of viscera
they
in their
really
wake.
just
The
weaponized
feeding
assassin
process is the stuff of
bugs.
nightmares, as their barbs inject a venomous slurry that liquefies flesh and organs for easier consumption.
Literally assassin bugs.
Once a victim is
It's
drained,
literally
the
assassin
herald
bugs.
disgorges a spray of
Oh
acidic
hell
bile
no.
to mark the corpse as unfit for further feeding,
No, it's literally
ensuring
just
its only
assassin
purpose
bugs.
is to spread disease and despair. The heralds are terrifyingly efficient in their ravenous purpose, their need to feed overriding all other instincts. A Grigori Gula is a wretched parody of divinity, a towering gaunt abomination cursed with insatiable hunger. Born from the
Okay.
desecration of the dead, it is a pale, corpse-like creature with its flesh stretched taut over the impossibly lean frame and elongated claws made for rending. Its impossibly large mouth is filled with screaming thralls, each reaching outward to greedily shove the fallen into their mouths and the mouth of their master. From its back unfurl great wings, their matted feathers thick with weeping sores, spreading disease wherever it passes. Though
Oh.
whispered in reverence among Beelzebub's faithful,
Oh.
the Grigori Gula is a slave to its own wretched
Oh.
existence, its hollow body never full, its monstrous hunger a torment without end. The wings of a Gula are massive and terrible
Shoot
things.
it now.
When unfurled, they carry not only the creature aloft, but
Oh,
also
that's
serve
creepy
as a vector
looking.
for disease.
So.
The dreaded black rail virus clings
Oh,
to their
that looks
feathers,
so
spreading
bad.
death and corruption wherever they pass. To the most devout champions of Beelzebub, a single plume plucked from the wings of a Gula is a sacred badge of honor, a mark of favor from the Lord of the Flies himself. Yet, for all their might and divine corruption, the Gula are slaves to their hunger. Their existence is driven by the ceaseless gnawing need to consume.
I feel like everything else
And
kind of
though
is a
they are
slave to the
revered
hunger,
among the damned,
regardless.
their craving is a torment that they can never escape. Each
Don't
life
all of
they
them have
devour,
an insane
each
hunger?
soul reduced to flesh, only deepens the void within them. A cruel irony, for in their endless gluttony, they too are consumed.
I listen, man. I've been watching a lot of these. I'm not gonna lie. I've been watching a lot of these. I don't think any of them has been that bad. And listen, I watched the wizard conversion. I've watched them not perverting, corrupting the saints and then using what's it like geotic warlocks, I think it's called, something like that. Whatever. The saint corruptions, the warlock, or not the warlock, but the wizards making all that stuff all gutty, all that, the different plagues of the black grail, all that. But this has to be the worst one I've seen. And it's for three reasons. One, how they replicate themselves. Two, the assassin bug. And three, just no. Just no, actually. No. But I think it's time we Odyssey? Honestly, let's move on and let's see what my chat has to be today and what else they plan to traumatize me with, considering. So, the next one is this is move on to the next one. The Eternal Fortress of Alamut. Hopefully, this is not as traumatizing as the last one. Because my god, do I need a palate cleanser. Please.
They call him Sheikh al-Hashishim. He is their elder, and upon his command all the men of the mountain come out or go in. They are believers of the word of their elder, and everyone everywhere fears them, because they even kill kings.
Ah, that's hard.
Alamut, the
That's
Unconquered,
crazy.
also known as Eagle's Nest, is the
The
chief stronghold of the
Unconquered.
Naziri Ismaili sect, who still hold sway over their ancient lands near Bar Khazar,
The
the body of water
Unconquered
the
is
Franks
crazy.
call the Caspian Sea, as it
Okay.
has for over 800 years.
Okay.
The mountain fortress houses the dreaded Order of Assassins.
You guys got
No
me on my
deadlier
hype.
killers walk this world, raised from childhood in the lethal and esoteric arts that bend time and space in service of their mystic and lethal craft. Many learned scholars of the Iron Sultanate Solima claim that Alamut was left outside of the Great Iron Wall as a mark of Allah's disfavor for their heretical views on religion. The mystics of the Assassins sneer at this suggestion, and maintain that the ever-preserving knew his children at Alamut would need no such protection. Their own bravery would suffice. Though largely closed to outsiders, there are times when the old man of the mountain requires the services of outsiders,
Like
or
who?
wishes to seek counsel from a sage of great wisdom in person. Such individuals awaken to find summons placed by their bedside, delivered by unseen hands
I
as
was
they
about to say, how did
slumber.
they get there? How did they
Summoned
get
to the
there?
capital of Deilam, as the assassins call Alamut, few dare to refuse such an invitation. At the mouth of the valley, they are met by servants of the Order, who blindfold them to ensure they cannot learn the hidden paths to the home of the Eagles.
Okay.
Such visitors
What's
tell of
their
heavenly
what's their
gardens,
strong abilities?
libraries that rival those of the House of Wisdom, and laboratories where philosophers, scientists, theologians, and sages of the Dervish Ismaili order debate a multitude of matters. Very few will speak of their audience with the master of the knives himself, the old man of the mountain, for fear of insulting their dread host. Of those brave enough to reveal details of their encounter, some describe being greeted by a youth full of vigor, an athlete and warrior at the prime of his life, wearing a shining white cloak. Others, however, describe an ancient man with a long silver beard, stern and whip-lean, dressed in the black kilat adorned with tiraz in the colour of blood. Whether a result of clever disguise or the mystic art of the Hashin Shin, no two descriptions of the countenance of the Lord of the Alamut ever match each other.
That makes okay.
All accounts agree on one detail,
That
a
is
simple ring, bearing a seal engraved with the symbol of the Holy King, whom the Franks call Solomon the Wise, rests upon a chain around the neck of the Lord of Alamut. Rumors
That's
abound that this is
interesting.
the first and true seal given by Allah to the mighty king, Suleiman ibn Dawud, giving him the power to command spirits such as the Shayatai and the Jinn. It is speculated it is the power of the seal that has kept Alamut safe all these years, despite Hell's forces holding the land surrounding Alamut and its hinterlands.
That would be interesting.
Whatever the truth of the matter, no warband of the court of the seven-headed serpent has ever approached the citadel of Alamut. Beelzebub's unclean order of the fly recoils from the assassin's hinterlands, and no outbreak of the Black Grail has ever been reported within their domain. It seems that Hell's otherworldly powers are held at bay by some kind of protection capable of countering their goetic magic.
Congratulations. Your stink cannot work in here. Beelzebub must be furious. And you know what? For once and forever now, because I know about that strain, I shall be nothing but grateful and praying on Beelzebub's downfall. Forever.
Thus, the mission to conquer Alamut has fallen upon the mortal followers of Jehannam. Abaddon, the great prince of wrath, has promised a reward of eternal youth to any heretic warlord who captures the Eagle's Nest. Despite the overwhelming numbers of the forces of the heretic legions, all who have attempted to take the fortress thus far have failed. Many
I'm assuming
attempts to
so.
invade are
It was a really
thwarted
cool
in their
design too,
earliest
by the way.
moments, as great heretic lords die in their tents to assassins' daggers, or via poison in their meals.
Somewhere, somehow.
Others disappear without a trace, their
It's
painstakingly
dead.
built alliances falling apart like chaff in the wind. Scarcely a decade passes without Alamet being assaulted, for there is no lack of ambitious heretic warlords. But the forces of Shaitan have laid siege to its onyx walls, have discovered that the fortress is all but invincible. The Almet Valley, known as the Shirkuh, is bordered to the east by the Almka Mountains,
Okay.
the throne of Solomon, and its entrance is a narrow one, shielded by cliffs and guarded by mystic standing stones. For much of the year, the raging waters of the river Alamet make this entrance inaccessible.
So there's not even a way to get in
Flanked
here.
by the iron wall to the east and west, any forces approaching come under a barrage of long-range artillery from its garrison, who gleefully exact a heavy toll on any would-be invaders. In the skies above, the airspace is protected and patrolled by the Sultan's flying ships of war,
Ooh.
making aerial assaults impossible.
Wow.
Though no official document or declaration exists, the strategists of New Antioch widely believe that the Sultanate's indirect protection of the Alamet is granted in exchange for the services of the assassins.
I was about to say the Sultan has a lot of really good assassins and everything already to begin with. I wonder if they be like, like trading information somewhat. This guy's gonna be like has his assassins show up and like look at the other assassins like, you're holding your knife wrong. Here, let me help you out. And then this guy's like, oh, thanks. Pretty much, thank you very much. And now he works with a 0.05% more efficiency. But that's already like a lot better than their already 99.99 efficiency to begin with. So because I'm pretty sure the Sultan's assassins could, like, I wouldn't say reality warp, but they could use illusions. I think they could bend reality a little bit. I think so. And like they're like extremely strong, which is crazy. But then again, they do have like homunculus in there, so like that have like existential crises because they're our life artificially made with no heaven or hell. Yet they're very smart. So like is the assassin that could bend reality really that impressive when they have that other thing that's like the size of a building moving around artificial life, which isn't that technically a blasphemy technically because you're playing God? But then again, I feel like the New Antioch making those patents by the cloned body of Christ, the Meta Christ, is kind of also blasphemy. So, you know what? I'm not even gonna try to say I understand the sinner system, the tally points here. All right, we're going against hell. I guess some rules could be bent.
Alamet's natural and military defenses are not its only safeguard. Heretic long-range artillery finds its shells striking the surrounding mountain, near the fortress itself, no matter how carefully the distances are measured, or what dark prayers are offered to patron demons. Assault forces lose their way, even when guided by infernal compasses and maps. Time itself flows in strange fashion here, and invaders find that each step robs their youth and vitality, causing them to succumb to the infirmity of old age long before ever reaching the walls of
That's
Alma.
some magic right there.
Their spent and withered bodies fall to join other unsuccessful invaders scattered across the lands of the assassins as their souls succumb to their doom in flames. Even to behold the fortress is a trial, its stones vanishing against the sky, eluding the eye and confounding the mind. Those who have tried to assault Alamet and have lived to tell the tale recall a powerful aura of forbidding menace surrounding the home of the Eagles. Even the most
Bro.
devout and bloodthirsty heretical
Bro.
general sworn to serve the
Bro, this is giving so much aura. I'm not gonna lie. So much like divine energy is protecting this area that is just crazy. Because at least the new Antioch is like the walls. Yeah, I mean, yeah, they made the paladins, but like they have like walls, fortresses. Have been fighting for so long. Their last city was taken, and it took a nuke to even take it. And like they did their battle hardened. The Sultan has giant walls, Homunculi, all that. This is just, I mean, we know they do have some kind of like, large influence and everything, and probably, I'm gonna say not large influence on everything. I mean, there's a large player influence, whatever, protecting them, both from the Iron Wall, but then just the divine energy just pooling around their sculpture, or not sculptures, but like their terrain and monuments, and just it's so treacherous and so hard that it's just I what do they do besides kill kings? I'm assuming, because I'm like, bro, you already got the area, you got the sauce, you got the reputation. What exactly are your troops gonna be like? We know they're assassins, but like, and we hear some things that they could do, but we pretty sure they could do more. And I see no. I mean, everything else is giving me pictures. So I'm just using my imagination so far.
serpent head of wrath, meeting twice before challenging the assassins.
Okay, what happened?
And so Alamut endures, unconquered and unbowed.
Mm-hmm. Okay, hold up. I want to hear that. What happened with
Sworn
that?
to serve the serpent. Even the most devout and bloodthirsty heretical general sworn to serve the serpent head of wrath,
Okay.
meeting twice before challenging the assassins.
What
Head of
twice?
wrath, meeting twice before challenging the assassins. And so Alamut endures, unconquered. And so before challenging the assassins.
Meeting
And
twice.
so
Okay. I
Alamut
don't know. That doesn't make
endures,
sense to me. My brain is
unconquered
short circuiting right
and
now.
unbowed.
Okay. That's cool. Very nice. Very demure. Yeah, some people are gonna hate me. All right, I get it. I make cringe jokes. But wow, the fact that I have the steps of aging and agony to even get there is crazy. Um, it's not somewhere I would want to visit if the afflictions happen like that. But if I can get granted safe passage, my God, does it look like a really nice place to just visit once? The pictures alone would be amazing. And the experience is the real thing. Wow. It's cool that the top part is painted blue. It's painted blue too, though. Very cool design. Very, very, very nice. Give it a 7.5 out of 10. Good job, kiddo. But yeah, that was this one. That one's actually really interesting and a very nice taste, considering what the last one was. And on to the next one. Westphalia miniatures trans. Oh, these are miniatures. Okay, all right. Let's see how this one is. All right, I'm
The
assuming this.
war, mere centuries old, feels eternal.
Ooh, let me
The
hide the
lives
value.
of millions have
Yeah.
ended, and the souls of
These are
millions more
miniatures.
have been damned to
Yo,
hell.
I think we'll check them
At
out.
points, the world felt like it would tip upon its axis and tilt into endless madness,
Okay.
only to be pulled back from the brink. While the faithful have always found a way to beat back the forces of hell, and have found ingenuity and courage beyond imagining in their efforts to fight in Christ's name, the legions of the damned have also embraced a terrifying new age. Deep in the bowels of hell, some of the greatest minds in history, turned from the light of heaven and forever locked away in service of the demonic, carry out their terrible work.
Yeah, it's got
It is in these cursed labs and chambers, hidden away from prying eyes, protected at all costs by creatures so foul that their countenance does not bear imagining, that the technomancers go about their damnable research. In need of a new method of fighting the war after being thwarted in endless pitched battles, no matter how many troops, damned and demonic, they threw into the meat grinder, the demon princes realized that they needed change. It was this need to adapt to the trivial yet harsh brutalities of war on Earth that led to the formation of the Technomancer schools and the terrifying depravity of the Cadaver Corps. In need of a shock trooper that could be
I need the
deployed
big
in
face,
the harshest
bro.
of environments,
I'm
behind
liking
enemy
this though.
lines,
This is good. It's
and with
nice. Look at
practically
him.
nothing in the way of support,
Got the
the
Luger
fiendish minds of Hell developed the
and
Cadaver Corps, a
MP40.
solution that was more
You think?
mechanical than biological. These beings were once flesh, but have since had their
Cool.
bodies replaced with complex amalgamations of pistons and gears, steamworks and hydraulics. Infernal components in impossible to understand matrices replaced their organs. Yet, somewhere inside it all, worked deep into the metal like the very heat used to forge it, is a human soul.
Somewhere in
The
there, you gotta
mechanical
dig
soldiers
deep.
of the Cadaver Corps that form its fighting elite are invaluable due to their absolute independence from the logistical nightmare that typically accompanies any army. There is no need for food, nor rest.
There's
They do
only
not
war.
make camp unless under extremely specific circumstances. They need no heat in the coldest of climates, nor water in the deepest of deserts. Instead, they act as brutal scavengers, descending on enemies and innocents alike, taking only what they
Bro,
need in the form of ammunition and weapons.
bro got the whole gasoline box, bro. He bought a gasoline. He got a gasoline carton. He intends to use it all. All right. God damn. Actually, wouldn't it technically be too small? Actually, now that I think about it. Wait a minute. Because usually when you use flamethrowers, don't you usually use like entire giant backpacks? Wait a minute. Wait a minute. I don't think that's enough gasoline. Actually, never mind. That's not enough gasoline. You need more. More gasoline,
Destroying the
sir.
rest.
You're a little bit
They leave
underprepared.
behind nothing but a trail of murder and ruin,
Ooh, look at the hooks
endlessly
on the
moving
heads
on to
down
the
there. That's
next target
very
of their
nice.
master's
Trench
designs.
coat. Can never look bad.
Units and squads are typically formed with a singular purpose in mind that they will then chase relentlessly under the command of their leaders and a technomancer. Whether capturing vital oil fields in the deserts of Africa, the never-ending pursuit of Mecca, or a lightning-past interception of important faithful forces or supplies, the Cadaver Corps travels light and fast. Their every consideration is designed to allow them the perfect combination of speed and brute force. Despite this, the Corps cannot truly escape the weakness of the flesh, as each one is reliant on a human soul for its eventual ascension to the true gift of artificiality, and the technomancers need a supply of the willing in order to experiment on. Many members of the damned wish to join the ranks of the Corps for reasons of their own.
They're
Some
usually
seek an
a
end to flesh,
sick.
the allure of cold, bright steel being an obliteration of feeling. No pain, no pleasure, just an endless void in which to be free of their own damnation.
Nah, well, this is evil. And this is evil. Bad. He got that shit on, though. He got that shit on, though.
Others despise creation to such a degree that they wish to extract themselves from it, convinced that the cold mechanical nature of their new existence will finally free them from their torment and act as the ultimate insult to the Creator. Some of them are just insane, driven to madness by all that they have seen, done, and endured. They are largely despised by the rest of the Corps and treated as little more than dirt by the technomancers, who see them as a mocking reminder that, for all their ingenuity and skill, they cannot create life. Not true life.
Not true, yeah, not true
They can
life.
fashion a form from ore and crystal, and they can infuse the essence of a human into it, but at every step, they work with the very materials provided by the Creator they claim to despise. All
Mm-hmm.
of them long for the artificial rebirth for reasons they may not even know
It
themselves.
ain't gonna
And the
work though.
technomancers are happy to harvest their desperate hope at something better than their current
Ooh,
meager
I like this guy.
existence.
Oh, look at him. Oh,
The
I love
core
this.
carries no supplies for these lost and abused supplicants.
Now
Instead,
this, I
the
think, is
still
my favorite
human
one so
members of the
far.
core must scavenge food from the defeated, and when that food is not present, they must resort to cannibalism to ensure their survival. Be the body friend or foe, it is butchered and devoured. The survivors eager to eat the essence of the fallen and add that strength to their own. When not in battle, they service the members of the core who have already achieved
I know
artificial.
wars, or this war is horrible, right? There's giant, like, like trench wolves and stuff like that out there. But after watching that Great Devourer, Great Hunger episode, maybe that's not bad. Maybe that's not so bad. Maybe the trench wolf could rip me in half. You know, maybe being ripped in half by the trench wolf, or made or assassinated by those like devil assassins, or 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 maybe shot, burned, or atomized or unmade by music is not as bad. Maybe it's not. Maybe it ain't so bad being blown up by a grenade. Maybe it's not so bad.
Rebirth, ensuring smooth function under the watchful eyes of their betters. Their every action is designed to invite favor from the technomancers as they beg for the slowly mounting gifts of artificiality. As long as their deeds in battle are impactful enough, lost limbs can be replaced. The technomancers are always seeking means to try new iterations of their designs, and these misbegotten creatures give them ample opportunity to test both process and prosthetic. In this way, only the loyalist, the strongest in spirit, and the most willing to sacrifice ever receive the gift of full artificiality. They become more than human, ascending above their weaknesses and flaws, and they exist only to act as the living will of the technomancers who inured them against the excruciating pain of their existence. Through the continued iteration and perfection of the cadaver core, Hell has introduced a new era of fear to the hearts of men. They are no more creeping battle lines and shifting fronts to offer the illusion of safety. The border of the fiendish and the faithful no longer swell and buckle over time as a means of gauging when it is time to grab what you can and run. Instead, the twisted shadow of the damned may already be falling across everything you hold dear. Responsible for making and maintaining the artificial life forms,
Yo, look at
technomancers seldom
this
have reason to
guy.
leave the safety and discomfort of hell. However, some particularly ambitious, brave, and arrogant technomancers create a cadaver core warband to gather some particular resource, test a new model of their creation, or simply to prove a point to their colleagues with whom
Bro
they
got the
endlessly bicker or
automatic. I know it's
politic.
not a Luger, but the automatic pistol with a drum on it, and a robot arm with a chainsaw. That is, or is that a surgery, bone saw? That's what I was thinking about. Is that a bone saw or a chainsaw arm? I can't tell. I'm assuming they don't have enough for a chainsaw. I'm assuming they broke and they have a bone saw. But man looks like he has the worst hunchback ever.
If every denizen of hell is guilty of just one sin, then technomancers can truly be considered prideful, dedicating themselves to a field of study so obscure that even the longest lived demons balk at the idea of spending such time in the lab. They obsess over the smallest details, attempting to achieve
Okay.
via artificial means what the hated creator did with his dreaded will. They seek to pit themselves against the very being who brought the universe into existence, such is their arrogance.
Yeah,
Technomancers rely on clockwork,
that's not gonna
metallurgy,
work out.
the
I'm
science
sorry.
of hydraulics, chemistry, biology, and complex magic that hold and contain the essences of intelligence,
I'm sorry,
emotion,
but you're
and
just
the
a
soul.
you're just
Through
a
gross
soul, bro.
manipulations of all three, they become their own greatest experiments, their egos driving them to turn their intrigue to their own hellish functions. Slowly, they carve away the meat of themselves, replacing it with complex machinery, housing delicate and intricate systems, magical ruins, and forbidden combinations of herbs, minerals, and liquids sourced from both hell and earth. All technomancers long to create and perfect the next great innovation that allows the forces of hell to take yet more territory from the armies of man. To this end, they are willing to sacrifice anything they need to in order to get one step closer to realizing their next terrible creation. And it is said that the lords of hell constantly vie for the favor of the technomancers in order to win them to their cause. The problem is once again that terrible pride. As technomancers see themselves,
I don't need no power from hell. I could make it. God made us in 7 days and 7 nights and nothing. I will make us from scraps of war. I don't need no hell to help me. I don't need no one to help me. I will make it on my own. That is definitely what's happening with them, for sure. And then Hell's like, no. How about we fund the sponsoring? I'd sponsor you if you join us. I don't need that. I don't need the fancy labs. I'll make it on my own. I wonder, because Jesus, if they do manage to pull a couple over, I wonder what wretched works they work on.
as subservient to no one, and their schools are dominated with fierce infighting.
I'm assuming so.
Technomancers has even been known to play complex games of cat and mouse when operating in the same theater of war, laying intricate traps and weaving complex webs of lies in an attempt to get each other killed. Without access to more refined materials provided by hell, phosphor witches are built using the very best of what is scavenged by the core.
That's a whole ass
Because their
nuke,
dimensional
lady.
abilities are limited, improvised explosives filled with fuel and other flammable substances scavenged from the enemy lines are made for them back at camp. With a simple gesture, they summon these devices, or simply something flammable within their line of sight, infuse it with some of their own personal phosphorus, and hurl the resulting vicious conflagration, showering the area.
The cat ears,
in a
though, is
chemical
crazy.
fire. Phosphor witches are made for
They. Oh my god, I almost choked. They ooified the witches. No. All things though, it's a really cool design. I like the big cape and everything, and the armor looks very cool. Of course, they can just throw giant explosive devices at people. Why not?
specific
I
reason.
also like this thing around their neck.
Rage.
It's like a
The last thing a warband of
reminds you of the thing that those royals would have around their neck from like England, I think. I don't really know history of it there too much. So I don't know if I could be wrong. Maybe the French did it. I don't know, but that reminds you of those things they would wear around their necks.
the Cadaver Corps wants to do is destroy the very people and supplies they rely on to continue their breakneck advance towards their final objective. But the egos of the technomancers can be fragile things. If a fortress proves too impregnable, if their losses are beginning to become unacceptable, if someone insults their choice of filigree on their creations, a phosphor witch may be created. Whatever the cause, the ire of those who lead the Cadaver Corps is raised. The phosphor witches will be unleashed and left uncontrolled and free to live up to their purpose. The result is catastrophic.
Bombing.
Towering, heaving columns of searing white flame roar as they claw towards the sky. Heat so swelteringly intense that even the sand beneath the inferno begins to melt and burn to glass. The motionless silhouettes of the witches are the only motes of darkness serenely standing in front of the unstoppable, unquenchable destruction that they have been created to enact. The flames only burn themselves out when there is no fuel left to consume, and by then, The Cadaver Corps are long gone. They have no reason to loiter if there's nothing to loot from the area. All that is left is the ashen remains of whatever was there before.
Yeah,
Sulfuric petals
makes sense.
drifting off glassed earth.
Oh, that's cool.
About as related to its namesake as its
No, no, no. There's more of these. I already felt horrible with the trench werewolf. There's a war hyena now? What? Why? No, no. Why do we need to have more? Why do we have to have more? Oh no. There's just more and worse.
The war hyena is the result of a similar process, applied with far fewer resources and often scavenged parts. The war in Africa has been particularly brutal for all sides, and the Cadaver Corps of Hell suffered losses much greater than most due to their distance from supply lines. The war hyena is a twofold answer to the needs of the invading forces of Hell. First, the technomancers have access to a ready supply of local wildlife to use in their experiments, and second, the terrifying laugh of the hyena and the effect that it had on prisoners of war has proven to be of great use to the Corps when it comes to the psychological side of warfare.
If I see that running towards me,
The technomancers noticed
bet-
that staked out
bet.
prisoners who were being interrogated would break quickly if the hyenas were allowed to come close, making them the perfect basis for experimental iteration and eventual perfection.
oh god. Listen, if I'm with a group of people, you better bet that I'm gonna hope I'm at least the second fastest, okay? Because I am not gonna get taken down by this. I am running. I am bucking it. Okay? Alright? Just no. No. Why you see something as horrible as a hyena and you attach 2 saws to its mouth? Why? Why? For what reason? There's no need for this. There's just no need for this at all. I don't get it.
It was quickly noted that war hyenas had an advanced level of cunning and excellent cooperative skills, and would quickly become dangerous even to their handlers if packs were allowed to grow too large. As such, it has been decided that it is much safer to limit them to groups of 2 outside of large-scale battles, where natural culling will occur through the attrition of the conflict itself. Any more than this, and the strange metaphysical yearning that seems to be a result of the creation process, leads to the war hyenas assigning a designated pack leader. What their aims are beyond that have not yet been discovered, as the technomancers ensured the eradication of any such packs well before the beasts established a more advanced social structure.
Well, that's something I definitely don't want to be running into anytime soon. Just for the love of God, no thank you. No thank you. I think I prefer to get shot. Maybe torn in half. But just not that, just not that. All right, we should go ahead and do the next one. It's gonna be a little bit older, but I wanted to, catch up on everything that's recommended. So next one is gonna be the tragic story of Zago, the Goliard. Goliard. All right. Let's go ahead and see what this one's about.
After Hell's initial assault on the Levant, the rallying of the armies of man, and the battles to drive the infernal forces
Who's
back,
got them
the
long
world began
shoes?
to change in ways that were both subtle and overt. Over the next 2 centuries, all around the no man's land, the focus turned almost entirely to martial prowess, logistical lines, the construction of fortifications, and the scavenging of artifacts. Northern Africa, Europe, and the rest of the Levant, and far stretches of the globe had no choice but to focus on feeding soldiers, armour, weapons, and money into the war machine to stop Hell from sweeping over the planet. It is one of Hell's greatest victories that they have managed to tear away so much light and life from the world, creating a million tragedies where previously there would have been joy. What heights could somebody like Zago the Goliard have reached had the trials and tribulations of his life not been too much for him to bear? How many more, like him, have fallen into the path of evil and come out changed, bitter and twisted enemies of a god that they should have found comfort in? Born to a family of singers, dancers, writers, actors, and playwrights, Zago's family legacy was already dying before he even had a chance to inherit it. Generations of entertaining had made his family wealthy, but a lack of work and endless ties to churches, militias, and armies had taken their toll, and the family coffers were empty. With all their land and holdings sold, their home gone, and their theatre auctioned to pay their debts, the weight and hunger of the war machine had finally bled them dry.
You've been made broke.
Few could afford to hire them, so they took to performing plays in public squares, traveling from town.
They went from high middle class to they destroyed the middle class. Now there's just lower class and higher class. Damn, that's just how it goes, I guess.
To town. Many people despised Zago's family, seeing them as layabouts, focusing on pointlessness, while their own family members worked the fields, built defenses, made weapons and armor, and fed the ever-hungry machines of war.
The machine of war, the war
there
machine.
was little place for laughter or mirth in this new world.
But hey, you do need it.
Few people saw the need for whatever joy Zago and his family tried to spread. And slowly but surely, the public attitude towards the arts and the artists began to become more openly hostile.
Oh, that's not bad.
Not even switching their focus to telling stories, writing plays, and singing songs of the deeds of man against the devil's forces seemed to be able to win them much favor. One night,
it's just trying to be jolly and they hating.
The members of the local aristocracy took great offense at what they considered to be a mockery of God within the lyrics of a song. The entire family was taken into custody, save for Zago, who had been too ill to perform that night and was sleeping in the covered wagon the family called home.
Oh, that sucks.
He awoke to screams and jeering, slipping from the wagon and following the noise along unfamiliar cobbled streets. The fever that possessed him made him weak, but finally he found himself in the square, a baying crowd in front of him.
Public execution, isn't it?
There, tied to stakes, kindling and firewood at their feet.
Never mind, they got burned.
Lives. He could do little but watch as his family's cries fell on deaf ears. The town mayor, the local priest, and the commander of the garrison were all drunk on the power of judgment, ignoring the protestations of his father and mother that they were honourable, faithful servants of the Lord. They had, to their minds, rooted out heretics who sought to mock the Lord and spread the word of the devil. The fires were lit, and through the burning heat of his own fever, Zago watched his family's flesh blister and blacken, their screams echoing through his mind. The sights and sounds broke something within him that day, but worst of all, what haunted him longest, was the weight of his own cowardice. He never spoke up, never fought for his family, never pleaded for them, or made their case. Afraid to face the fires himself, he kept silent and watched as they died. While it was unlikely he could have changed their fate, what kind of person was he to not even try? On fire with a sick fever, half mad with grief and self-hatred,
this guy's gonna
snuck
tip
back
over.
to the wagon and grabbed what he could before stealing out of town in the dark. The townsfolk cheering the burning embers of his family haunted him long after he was out of
if he turns, I'm not even gonna blame him, I'm gonna be honest.
Needing to survive, yet unable to use his family name, now known for its association, wrongly or not, with heretical activities, he took on the role of a wandering jester. Becoming just Zago, he hid behind a mask and sold his services to any rich merchant or aristocrat who felt the need for a temporary jester. With society having managed to survive the wars of Triclavianism, where the church turned upon itself, Cruelty in society had become the norm.
Yeah, it's
There
gonna
was
be
also the constant threat
tortures,
of heretical
floggings, all
uprising,
that stuff.
as the forces of the damned constantly probed and prodded at weakened domains, as the faithful fought and squabbled amongst themselves. The aristocracy and clergy were often cruel and vindictive, and fools and jesters were sought after to essentially undergo abuse for the entertainment of the aristocrats and their
That
allies.
does seem
Unable
to
to shed the
track.
memories of the death of his family, burned alive for no reason, and enduring cruel treatment just to be able to live, Zago began to slip further and further into discontent and madness. As he slept, he would dream of revenge against those who had wronged him, and while during the day he prayed for peace, his prayers always went unanswered, and he was unable to find tranquility amongst the torment.
Bro, it's gonna turn it.
He began to
I
put
kind of get
subtle
mad.
heretical dogma and allegory into his work, telling himself that he was fighting back against his abusers. When they would react poorly to his songs, he would explode at them in self-defense, accusing them of being heretics who saw evil in the innocent. As subsequent patrons grew more and more disturbed and unsatisfied with his artistry, he would tell them simply, "The arrangement sounded much better in my head." Slowly but surely, over the course of months and years, what had been true and pure and faithful in Zago's heart was lost,
Wow.
and he slipped into the heretical almost without realizing that he was damning himself. He returned to the town where his family had been killed,
What do you do?
arranging to perform for the very man who had ordered their deaths.
Oh, there's
During
gonna be
the
a
performance,
revenge.
he unveiled his latest work, a disorganized and discordant mess of music with lyrics that were openly heretical and mocking of God. With the angry crowd baying for his blood, enraged that he had desecrated their town with his satanic performance, he managed to slip away by removing his mask and donning a cloak, somehow buying him enough time to set out north before anyone even realized he
Really?
was gone.
That's
He left
how
him a
would you
parting gift on
disappear?
the stage, the tabouret he had used to play the percussive elements of his song. There, staring back at them, stretched
What's
his
up?
leather across the delicate wooden
I'm gonna
surface.
be honest. I'm gonna be completely honest. Like very, very on God right now. I don't know why, but suits that look like the ones on the left, and I mean like the fact that they're leathery like that and they bend in certain ways like that. If I saw somebody wearing that IRL, that would internally freak me more out than whatever's on the right here. I don't know why, but something about these suits and the fact they look that way is just so uncomfortable to me. Since it gives me like an uncanny vibe in a way, weird. Ew, that shouldn't be looking. Why does it look that way? It looks very like no, no, thank you. I don't know why. It just makes me uncomfortable. And yeah, no. Oh, I don't know why, but it makes the two on the left make me 1 and 2 make me very uncomfortable.
Circles of the tabouret, the distorted face of the mayor who had been absent from the audience and hadn't been seen since he had left on a hunting trip the week before. Fearing they had been unwilling witness to some great and evil ritual, the cleric demanded that everyone go through a blessing, for fear that their souls were damned and lost from what they had seen. Zago used the time to put distance between himself and the town, for he knew that their fury would follow him. He was pursued by bounty hunters, townsfolk, and the faithful for hundreds of miles. The chase took its toll, and he couldn't rest, sleep, or see to the wounds he picked up along the road from near misses and towns where outriders had carried news ahead of him. They warned the fearful and the faithful of a lone traveller, a mummer and a fool, a heretic and a heathen.
Yeah,
At
heathen
night, he
indeed.
dreamt of those who followed him, seeing them as ghostly apparitions, burning bright when close by and fading away in the distance. When awake, he lived under constant feelings of déjà vu, as if the world was playing out a book he had already read. A dozen times he should have been caught, but something drove him to make a different decision when he had decided on a course of action,
Okay.
or to change his mind at the last possible moment.
All right.
Several times he opted to avoid a town for no good reason, only to see bounty hunters arrive as he watched from the nearby woods.
No.
He could feel things tugging at his mind, and even when he was awake, the ghosts of whispers pulling him north, towards Carantania. Eventually,
Somebody's
ravaged by
watching
fever
over
and
him.
half mad and sick from the road, Following voices that only existed in his head, he came to a cave, hidden from view by rolls of earth and groups of trees. He stumbled inside, moving deeper and deeper, the air growing cold, the sharp tang of minerals and moss biting the back of his throat with each breath. He wandered for days in the dark, growing weaker and weaker,
Ooh, that
the voices
sucks.
growing
But
louder and louder, calling him forward.
days? That's
In his
crazy.
mind,
No,
all he could
days,
see
really?
was his family burning. They had tried so hard to live good lives, and they had been so proud to help others, make them smile, and to entertain. They had offered up their talents in the name of the Lord, and a single rotten aristocrat and his friends had seen them murdered, seen their names sullied forever. The voices whispered, clearer than they had ever been, "Where was God while your family burned? He abandoned you as you abandoned them." Suddenly, he stumbled into a massive cavern. Ahead of him was a flat plain, stretching out for a mile in either direction. A strange light burned in the cave, although he failed to find the source for it. "We can give you power," the voice told him. "We can bring you strength."
Well, the
He
man's
wanted to
gonna
lay
make a
down
deal
and
with the
die,
devils.
but hatred drove him
devils.
for the entire town who had cheered as his family screamed, for the world that had turned against his family's art, seeing it as futile and useless, for the God that he felt had abandoned him, denied him strength when he had needed it the most. He allowed the voices to lead him, step by step, to the center of the massive black platform, and there he found a staircase leading down into the heart of it. He followed it down, each step bringing more of a chill to the air, until at the bottom of what he now realized was an inverted pyramid, he found an altar. A chain and ropes grew up and outward from it, almost like wings, reaching all the way to the top of the structure. "Lay upon the altar," the voices said, "embrace your innermost desires." As he sat back upon the cold black stone, he thought he could see the shapes of things around him, strangely human, reaching out to him, imploring him, begging him to help them. He knew what he had to do as he reached for the chains and ropes, each one ending in a cruel hook. Filled to bursting with hatred and madness, adrift in a sea of heretical insanity, his only joy of the last few years the murder of his tormentor, he drove the hooks through his arms and his legs, piercing the wasted muscles of his body.
Ew.
Bidden by no earthly power, the ropes and chains pulled him upward, suspending him high above the altar, and inverted him so that his blood ran down over his own body, across his face, and dripped from the top of his head. As it landed upon the stone of the altar, there was no splash, and it was instead almost instantly sucked away as if it was landing in water. High above, finally feeling peace, knowing this was the final step on a path to gaining the power to punish those who had wronged him, Zago reached out for one last hook. As it glinted in the unholy light, he dragged it across his own throat while cursing God himself, and the last of his lifeblood spilled forth and down into the altar.
That's...
For 9 days, Zago's corpse hung there, decaying on the ropes and the chains, while his soul endured the fires of hell. Whatever was left of his humanity was lost, burned away
not
by
the
infernal
throat
flames.
cut.
His hatred was strengthened, and his desire for vengeance was nurtured. All his pain, all his suffering, was the fault of others. The voices that led him to the altar so led him to his next realization. He could go back. Far from weak, Zago understood that his hatred made him powerful, and he reached out, back to the earth,
Bro got
back to where
hate
his
buff.
corpse hung far from the light of God, and he poured all his spite and anger and hatred into it.
Okay, so what is it? Powers he
In the
gonna have
silence
now?
of the chamber, the ropes began to creak, and the chains began to groan. They lowered his body to the altar, where he alighted on top of it, pulling his own head clear of his neck and holding it high. Filled with the strength of hell, he climbed back up the steps that had led him to this place, holding his own singing head in his hands. The tattered remains of his clothing did little to disguise his vile and disgusting features. It mattered not who saw him now, and even less who found him. His enemies were welcome to act as an audience, to watch his sickly dance and hear his vile songs of blasphemy. Those who managed to avoid madness would fall beneath the hooks and blades, and the ropes and chains that made him whole. As he left the mouth of the cave, the profane dirge echoing off the rock and stone, The forests seemed to
Rocking
call him.
stone.
The
We're
voices
rich.
that had
Sorry,
haunted him were
that was
quiet
an
now,
auto thing. All
gone
right.
in search of another victim, another life to derail and destroy, another land to lead to slaughter. What was once called Zago wandered out into the forest, taking his hymns with him, ready to show the world the true meaning of damnation.
This was good. This was surprisingly better than I thought it'd be. I got a whole tragedy here. Then again, what is a story of a fool but not always a tragedy when it comes to storytelling? Most of the time, the tragedy falls on the fool. Uh, that was nice. Okay. All right. That was good. I don't like that one. Yeah, wow. Well, tragic, sad. Um, but good. Boy lost everything. Bro was just trying to be an entertainer, and unfortunately, the world was not ready for you. Uh, um, and or was not the right time. You know, born too late to be to be an entertainer. Born too early to be an entertainer as well, considering things like me exist today. But then again, it's born in the wrong time, which is an unfortunate tragedy. Now we're gonna go ahead and do the last one for today. The Moving Fortress of Britannia, which is interesting considering they never gave a description for what the the moving fortress was when I originally heard it. And as far as I was concerned, the not the heretics, the condemned, I think would be the word then. Would the condemned were the ones ruling the seas. I'm pretty sure the bad guys had control of the oceans. So this is gonna be interesting.
Britannia no longer rules the waves. This is indeed correct, for wherever it goes, the moving fortress rules the land, sea, and the sky all at once. After decades of matching and often overcoming the heretic naval menace with the might of the royal fleet, the Crown of England now finds most of its battles are fought on their own land. Ever since the disastrous naval Battle of the Bloody Cliffs in 1805, England has been a country at war. Betrayed by the Prince of Wales, who switched sides in the middle of the battle, the remnants of the
How
English fleet
dare
were only
they.
salvaged thanks to Admiral Nelson's rearguard action and the heroic sacrifice of the HMS Bellerophon. The rest of the fleet limped into Portsmouth to fight another day. Though mercifully, so
That's
great
an
was the toll
awesome looking
exacted
ship,
by
though.
Nelson's defiant last stand that an immediate full-scale invasion of Britain was averted. For the legendary Admiral took the Great Red Dragon, the flagship of the heretic fleet, to the bottom of the ocean with him.
Oh, that's
The years that
cool.
followed were
That's
hard for
cool.
England. With their lost dominance of the waves,
I don't even
its
have to hear
overseas
that story
territories were
fully
gone,
to understand that guy
and
was
even the
probably a
vital
legend.
trade with mainland Europa became a desperate struggle.
Mm.
Heretic naval raiding parties caused widespread chaos and destruction all along the Albion coastline,
Yeah, I heard of that.
often striking deep into the countryside, pillaging and burning towns and cities before being intercepted by the Crown Army, which was being stretched to its limits.
Yeah, they don't exactly have the
Faced with
numbers for
death
this
by
anymore.
1,000 cuts, King Robert the Longsword reformed the army to
The
counter this
long
threat
sword,
and began plans for the building of a secret weapon to
which
safeguard the
is
nation, putting the fate of England in the hands of Project Invincible, the construction
Ooh.
of the moving fortress of Britannia.
Oh, okay. So this was the origin
Completed in
story.
the year 1907 AD, the construction of the moving fortress of Britannia and its entry into the
Took
Great
like
War finally
100
stabilized
years,
the
I guess,
situation on
to
English
make it.
shores, as it was able to match and exceed the heretic forces in any type of warfare, wherever the infernal powers decided to attempt a landing, by simply moving there under its own immense power and unleashing its devastating combined arms upon the invaders. The moving fortress is a marvel of industrial engineering, a titanic fleet carrier, and battleship that can
The
traverse
big
both
boy
land
ship.
and sea. This Leviathan patrols the shores of England, leaving a thick trail of black smoke and 3 feet deep tracks in its wake. It acts both as mobile base for England's High Command, an unrivaled artillery stronghold, and the only faithful ship that can engage heretic Behemoth-class vessels in one-on-one naval combat
Mm,
and emerge victorious.
yeah. Okay. That's
It is
kind of the vibe
equally
it's giving.
capable of engaging the heretic fleets at air, sea, or on land.
So I'm assuming this thing is pretty much like their trump card, but they only have one card, so it can't be everywhere. They have to use this very, 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 very unsparingly. Um, so it's awesome. Looks amazing. Fortunately, it can only cover so much ground, but I'm glad we have something to fight back.
Within the vastness of its 4 superstructure stands the fortress monastery of the 10,000 Knights of St. George, who can match even the fiercest heretics in close quarters combat. An entire armoured corps accompanies Britannia, and a full fleet consisting of 1/3 of England's remaining naval strength acts as its escort.
1/3.
Above
That's a
it,
big. That's a
the
big.
finest of England's
That's a big
air
escort.
knights fly their fighter planes and naval bombers when the fortress goes to war, which is often. The heretic high captains are well aware of the strategic value of controlling the British Isles, and they constantly strive to establish a beachhead that would lead to eventual conquest, though thus far without lasting success due to the might of the fortress. The technology that allows Britannia to move over shorelines is unknown and a closely guarded secret of the Crown. Whatever the source of this innovation, it allows the fortress to travel across the land of most English beaches, albeit slowly. When crawling upon England's shores, a great noise and deafening hiss of steam can be heard, and it appears that the ship does not touch the ground at all. If there is a weakness to the moving fortress, it is the fact that it is only one of its kind.
Yeah, that's literally what I
England's
said.
reserves of orichalcum
I'm pretty
and
sure they
other
probably
critical
can't make
minerals
this
that were
anytime soon
required
again
to
either.
construct the pride of the nation were depleted by the enormous efforts required to build it.
Yeah.
And current production and trade of such materials can barely maintain the repairs to the fortress and the rest of the fleet. Within the British Isles, the moving fortress is a delicate issue to discuss. It is dedicated to the defence of England alone, and her neighbours grumble that while Englishmen sleep soundly in their beds under its protection, the heretic navies raid Alba, Eire, and the lands of Wales.
Well, they kind of have no choice, considering
the
unless
English Crown counters these accusations by
I feel like they should say, "Hey, if you want us to protect you, how about you give us some resources, and then we could protect you for it? Because this is a one of a kind weapon." And it ain't for free, baby. It ain't free at all. You need to be paying for this top dollar escorts here, right? You need to be paying for this top dollar air support, this top dollar land support. You need to be paying for this stuff. So, how about you contribute to it being well kept, and we contribute to your safety?
pointing out that it is only the fear of the fortress that stops the hulking Behemoth-class heretic battleship from approaching the shores of the Three Islands and mounting full-scale invasions on them all. Britannia proudly displays their heraldic device of the 3 lions. Until the construction of the moving fortress, the English coat of arms carried only 2 lions of William the Conqueror.
Okay, why is
When
it
the
3?
construction of Britannia was completed, a 3rd lion was added. No ruler before had dared to raise their own device next to that of William I. On the prow stands the defiant image of Lady Britannia, carrying the sword forged in part from the melted sword Curtana, signalling that England will show no mercy to enemies that come to plunder its shores.
Makes sense.
The sailors of the fleet swear that the figurehead has the power to turn aside any heretic artillery shell due to the divine providence granted to it by God. Whether this is true or not, the proud figurehead has never been touched by an enemy weapon, adding to the mystique and majesty of this foremost defender.
Oh, really? Had never been hit. That's actually really interesting. There probably might be some blessings on that, Wow. Okay, that was interesting. I'm 100% impressed that this fortress is holding on as long as it does, but we kind of need it considering we have no other way to fight them back in the oceans. You know what? Keep on trucking because we need this. We need this because they had such an unfair game, bro. They have submarines, they have underwater suits. We could barely hold up. I'm glad this works. I'm glad this is keeping us alive, and I'm glad it's enough for now to keep all the other enemies at bay, considering how effed we would be if we didn't. Well, that has been our reaction to Trans Crusade lore. We have caught up with everything our Discord has sent us, and we probably are gonna be doing more eventually. Once it once we get a little bit more, because it was only about well, maybe we could do another one soon, but I'll probably wait for like at least 2 more episodes to pop up before I do another one. So thank you very much for watching, everybody. Hope you guys had a great day. Hope you guys enjoyed my reaction, and that's gonna be all for today. See ya.